Welcome back to the OSM channel. I have spent approximately the last month casting 24 of these concrete raised garden bed panels, and I am relieved to say I am finally finished with the concrete casting process. It is finally time to take these panels and move them out into the garden, get them pinned into the ground, add some compost and topsoil, and then in a future video we will have to start planting. Anyway, the first logistical issue that I was facing this morning was, how am I going to move these panels out into the garden? This is a lot of weight. Each one of these panels weighs about 80 pounds a piece, and let's face it, I'm a small guy. I want to do this in a way that I'm not going to hurt myself. Well, thankfully, about a year and a half ago, I built a logging jib crane trailer. The purpose of this trailer, those of you that have watched my channel in the past will know that it's intended to lift up rounds of wood, so that way you could bring those rounds over to the log splitter, drop them in the splitting tray, and split the wood. You guys have heard it a lot in the past. The trailer consists of a deep cycle battery, Harbor Freight 2,500 pound electric winch, that is operated with a remote, and then there's a jib and some pulleys, and it just works fantastic. So obviously I decided to use this trailer, and with the touch of a button I can raise and lower these panels. So that solved that issue. Now the next issue I was facing was the rigging. Now for engineering the rigging, I set a few parameters. One, I wanted the rigging to quickly connect to the panels, and two, I wanted to set up the rigging as to where nobody had to deadlift the panel in order to connect the rigging. Well, these panels pin into one another by way of, there's half-inch conduit in these knobs right here. So we have some half-inch rebar, and that's how these panels are going to get pinned to one another. So I decided to utilize those for my rigging point. All I used was a piece of half-inch threaded rod that goes through that half-inch conduit, and it does not slide out. See, I could try and slide it out, and it won't, due to the friction. And then I just have a piece of webbing connected to that rod, and when I lower this down, you'll see once we relieve all the weight off that threaded rod, the rigging points just pull right out, and you reset, go lift up another panel. So let's start moving some panels here, eh? First load is on the trailer. Now we need to cut some rebar. Now these panels are 9 inches high. I bought a couple pieces of 10-foot long rebar. 10 feet of rebar equals 120 inches. I'm thinking we're gonna make these stakes 20 inches high because the neighbor's leaf blower is so loud. So let's mark these pieces of rebar out at 20 inches and we'll cut them to size. Alright, so I have a couple tape measures laid out. I set where I want my corner to be. We're going to be 5 panels long in the back, so without further ado, let's try and pin this panel together here. So things look like they're going pretty well, right? Well, I'd say they are now. However, a few moments ago I had to shut the camera off because I had quite a bit of a disappointing setback. One of my tabs blew out. And I can tell you why that happened. What I've learned is that if you use 1/2 inch conduit inlaid in your tabs, you don't want to use 1/2-inch rebar. The tolerances are just going to be too tight. What I would recommend is something smaller, the next size down. I went through what I had laying around the shop, and I had this 3/8-inch square stock, and this stuff works well because it allows for a little bit of tolerance in all directions. Another thing that I've learned is before you set your concrete panels, you want to try and ensure that your pad is flat. It doesn't have to be level, it can be pitched, but you want it to be flat. The issue becomes if it's bumpy, there's highs and lows. Like this one's pretty good, but I mean, you can see that gap up here is a little bit wider than the gap down here. So definitely want to make sure things are flat. Again, we're making good progress now, but it is very disappointing that I lost one of my panels and I don't feel like forming any more panels. So I'm gonna go back to the drawing board and I'm gonna reshape the garden because now I'm not gonna be able to do what I wanted to do, but we're gonna make it work. Alright, I have all the panels pinned together, and I gotta say I'm pretty pleased with how everything turned out. It took a little bit of tweaking to get everything lined up right, and definitely having a few different diameter rods to stake the panels together was critical. If you find that 1/2-inch rebar is not going through that conduit, look for something else, because if you try to tap that down, you're just gonna blow out the corner. So now it is time to start filling the beds, and what I've elected to do is fill the bottom portion of the beds with this organic material. So this is just some decomposing leaves and sticks and pieces of bark. It's probably been cooking for less than a year. So this is going to sit at the very bottom of the beds, and then once we fill a base with this organic material, then we're going to bring in the nice compost, and that's going to be our top layer. So that'll give something for the worms to work on and loosen up the soil, and it should add nutrients to the upper layer of soil as time goes on. So burning daylight, let's keep going here. Alright, I'm going to close out this video. Had a long day, but a very productive day. Really pleased with how these panels came out. Once everything got pinned together and straightened out, everything turned out really nice. Got the compost in the beds. Noticing a lot of bugs, so I guess there's some mosquitoes and whatnot sitting in here, but off camera, in a few days here, I'll probably put some topsoil compost down over this compost that isn't really cooked. You know, like I said, this stuff has only been in the pile for less than a year, so next time you see this garden bed project probably will be when I'm either installing a very cheap fencing system Total cost $12, can't beat that. And additionally, another future video will be when I start sowing seeds into the garden, but that's probably a few weeks out here. So anyway, thanks for watching. As always, catch you on the next one.